Hey everybody, I'm Mrs. Carlson from Dillon Nature Center and we're in the Playscape today and I am a track detective. What do you think a track detective is? Do you want to be a track detective? Ooh, and I'm not talking about train tracks either. I'm talking about animal tracks. Today in this video, you're going to learn about animal feet. You're going to learn about animal tracks. You're going to learn about the way animals walk and move around. Then we're going to go look around on the grounds at the Nature Center. We're going to look for some real animal tracks around. And then I'm going to show you how to make a cast of a print of a track that we might find out on the grounds. So, are you ready to be an animal track detective? I have some questions for you before we get started. Have you ever walked in the mud? Have you ever walked, maybe out of the pool, maybe at a splash pad, you had your feet wet, and then you walked on dry cement? Did you leave anything behind you? What did you leave behind you? How about footprints? Did they look kind of like this? Oh, here we go. Look at my footprints. Aren't they awesome? Did you know that animals are going to leave behind footprints too? We don't call them footprints though, we're going to call them tracks. And if you have a whole bunch of footprints around, those are the tracks. If you see one footprint around, you're going to call that a print. Okay? So today, when we're going to discover all different kinds of animal tracks, there are some things to look at before you determine maybe what animal made those tracks. You need to look for some clues. And there's lots of identifying ways you can look at. We're going to look at 6 things today. So, the first thing you want to look at is how many legs and feet did that animal have? Some animals have 2 legs and feet. A lot of animals are going to have 4 legs and feet. The second thing you're going to want to look at is the number of toes that animal might have. Some animals have 3 toes, some have 4 toes, some have 5 toes, and some have a combination. So look at the number of toes. The third thing you want to look at is claw marks. Does that animal have maybe some toenails? Does it have some claws? How long are they? How short are they? Are they far away from the toes? So look at the claw marks. Then the next thing you're going to want to look at is the size and shape. So how big are those feet? Are they round? Are they oblong? Are their front feet maybe different than their back feet? Okay. Look at the size and shape. That's going to mean the difference maybe between a squirrel foot, and maybe a rabbit foot. Okay. They're going to be sort of similar, but they're not. Okay. So the last thing that you're going to look at is the gait. Okay, the gait. I'm not talking about G-A-T-E, something that swings. I'm talking about G-A-I-T, gait. How does that animal walk? How does it move? Does it jump? Does it walk in a straight line? Does it kind of waddle when it walks? Okay, so look at how it walks. How are its footprints? And number 6, you want to look at any other clues like the location. Where are you finding those tracks? Are those tracks next to a river? Are they in a forest? Are they up on a prairie? Those are going to give you some clues because you're sure not going to find a prairie dog in the middle of a forest, are you? No. Okay? So look at those 6 things and then you're going to be a super great track detective. All right. Hold on in a minute. We're going to start talking about feet. I'll be back in a second. Birds, we're going to start with those. Birds are going to have 2 legs and 2 feet. On their 2 feet, they're going to have normally 4 toes. Some of them have 3 toes and some birds have 2 toes, but most of them are going to have 4. Also, most of them are going to have an arrangement where there are 3 toes in the front and 1 toe in the back. Kind of looks like this picture right here. 3 in the front, 1 in the back. Our perching birds, so birds like cardinals, blue jays, robins, they're going to have 3 toes in the front and then 1 in the back. That's going to help them grab onto those branches and hang on. Other birds, though, are going to have their toes in a different arrangement. Some of them are going to have toes that look like this. They're going to have toes 2 in the front and 2 in the back. And those are going to be woodpeckers. Woodpeckers have to go up and down the trees, and then that's going to help them to climb on, having that arrangement, 2 in the front and then 2 in the back. Other birds are going to have different arrangements of feet as well. We're going to have some birds that are like turkeys. Okay? They're going to have bigger, thicker feet. They're going to be stouter. They're going to have 3 toes in the front and 1 in the back. But normally what you're going to see are those 3 toes, like in my turkey track over here. So turkeys, and we have, you can see this over here, a turkey with 1, 2, 3 toes. And that's not a toe. That's just part of the pad of the foot. And then they're going to have like a little other bump back there in the back, sometimes if they're in the mud. So you can see a turkey right here, and he's kind of, this turkey track is walking kind of in a straight line. So the other bird I have over here is a goose, and geese and ducks are going to have webbed feet. So if I go over here and I look at my goose, I'm just going to move on over here. My goose is going to have 3 toes, 1, 2, 3 toes in the front, and then it's going to have one in the back right over there, kind of up its leg a little bit, and it's not going to hit the ground. So it has 4 toes, but 3 is what you're going to see on the ground. But they have something special between their toes. They have webbing, and those webbing help them to move around in the water. They're kind of like swim fins, and so that's going to help them. They kind of waddle when they walk. They make more or less a straight line when they walk, but their legs are short, and so sometimes they kind of are a little bit off. Turkey, you're going to see those lines a lot in the front. When you see different birds walking, maybe like the woodpecker or like a perching bird, sometimes they'll walk one foot in front of the other. Other times you'll see them walking or kind of hopping along in pairs with paired feet like that. It just kind of just depends on what they're doing at that particular time and that particular bird. Okay? So that's a little bit about bird feet. Next, we're going to talk about mammals. All right, so now we're going to talk about some mammals. Mammals are going to have a different number of toes. The first mammal we're going to talk about are going to be deer. Deer are going to have 2 toes on their hoof. They have a cloven hoof, which means it's split. And so they're going to have 2 toes, 1, 2. And they're going to kind of look like a crescent shape. The front of their foot is kind of pointed. The back side of their foot is going to be kind of rounded. And then it's going to look like kind of an upside down heart, if you can imagine that. So there's a front foot, there's a back foot. They're going to be similar, but their size is going to be just slightly different. Okay? They're also going to be about the size of a tennis ball. So if you imagine that, about the size of a tennis ball. We're going to come back to the tennis ball a lot because a lot of them are about that size, okay? More or less. Okay? So oftentimes when you see a deer walking or a deer track, you're going to see the points going in the one direction that they're going. Normally you're going to see 1, 2 toes that are hard, and then sometimes you're going to see 2 little other prints down here, maybe one there and one there, and those are called dew claws. And if they're running really fast in some soft mud, you might see those prints, but often you don't see them. Okay? When they're running quickly, you're going to see that their toes will spread apart. They'll kind of spread out just like yours do too. So you can see that in the soft mud too. And they might not be just exactly like this. Okay? So those are going to be deer track. How many toes do they have? 1, 2 on each foot. How many legs do they have? 4 legs. Okay? So their feet are going to be similar. Also, when deer walk, they're going to walk in pretty much a straight line. They're called a straight walker or a perfect walker, and they're going to walk a lot like you in that straight line. And sometimes their footprints are actually going to overlap one another, and they might touch, and you can kind of see them kind of smushed together. So that's a deer. All right, the next one I have for you is going to be a bobcat. I happen to like bobcats. I'm going to show you a picture of a bobcat. If you don't know what one looks like, there's one right there. Can you get a good look at that? You got it? All right, so there's a bobcat. I don't see a lot of bobcats around, but sometimes you can see their tracks, and their tracks are pretty well identified. They are a cat. And I'm going to look down here on the ground at some of these tracks we have here. I'm going to set this down, and then we're going to look down here on the ground as to what some bobcat tracks look like. So when you're looking for bobcat tracks, you're going to look for an animal that has 4 legs and 4 feet. They're also going to have 4 toes. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, and then a pad that kind of reminds me of maybe a wide nose, okay, with these little bumps right here. One way to tell a bobcat track, maybe from a different type of animal like a coyote, you're going to see kind of a rounded print here. I've got a rounded print. Also, you're not going to see any claw marks. You don't see any nail marks here. Okay? Cats or felines, they're going to have retractable claws. So when they walk with them pulled up, and you're not going to see them. So also, they're going to be a little bit smaller than that tennis ball. Not very big, and they're going to walk pretty much in a straight line too. They're a straight or a perfect walker, so we've got a right foot, left foot, Got a left foot, got a right foot there, pretty much in a straight line. All right, so the next animal we're going to talk about is a coyote. Some people call them coyotes. How about a coyote for this video? So they're going to be bigger than that bobcat. They're kind of that brownish, tannish, blackish color. They're going to have a little bit different feet, and they're going to leave different tracks than a bobcat will. They're going to be similar to a dog, and that's going to be a little bit hard to tell, but I'll give you some clues here to kind of maybe help you decide if you have a dog, a bobcat, or a coyote. Okay? I'm going to set this down, and we're going to look at this track down here on the ground. So, if you're going to look at some coyote tracks, what you want to look at are the number of toes again. Of course, they're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. They're going to have 4 legs. Okay? Then they have this little pad back here on the back of their foot. They're also going to see, you're going to see some nails. I see a nail mark here, 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 and here. On a coyote, you're often going to see the first 2 nail marks, the one in the front. Sometimes you don't always see the ones on these side toes, but the ones on the front. Also, if you're going to compare this track to one of a bobcat, the coyote is going to be more of an oval shape. The bobcat, remember, is going to be more of a round shape. So you're going to look for that oval shape. It's also going to be a little bit of a bigger print. And so once again, you're going to look at that tennis ball, and it's going to be about the size of a tennis ball. The bobcat's going to be slightly smaller than that tennis ball. So if you're looking at the way that coyote is walking, you're going to see it walking pretty much in a straight line. It's going to be a perfect walker, 1 foot in front of the other pretty much in a straight line. Coyote is going to just try to make a beeline. It might go straight. And if you want to compare that maybe to a dog track, those dog tracks might be kind of more meandering. And then you're going to see maybe some different nail marks. Those nail marks might be a little bit more blunt, whereas a coyote track is going to be a little bit more sharp. So our next mammal we're going to talk about are raccoons. And raccoons are going to have 4 legs and 4 feet, and they are going to have 5 toes, 5 on the front and 5 on the back. Their shape of their feet are going to be a lot like your hands. So if you can imagine 5 toes and fingers, and they're going to be really, really cute. So I like to look at it. I've got some down here, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes. This one right down here is a front foot, and it really looks like a lot like a human hand. Its back print, we go over this way just a little bit, it's going to look a lot like your foot. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes there, and it's kind of an oblong shape. And if you can imagine, it also kind of looks sort of like a triangle, kind of a triangle shape. So back foot is going to be bigger than a front foot by quite a bit. When they walk, they're not going to walk in a perfectly straight line like deer will. They're going to walk where they call a waddle. They're going to waddle back and forth. So they're going to put most of their weight on their right side, right leg, right foot, and then they're going to transfer that weight left foot, left side. Okay? So they're going to keep going back and forth, back and forth. And so you can kind of see on this track here, we've got a back foot and then a right hand side by side. Then we have a right hand and a left foot next to each other. As they keep going back and forth from a front foot and a back foot, back and forth, and we call that a waddle. Oftentimes you can see a raccoon tracks in wet places, especially near ponds, lakes, and rivers, where they find a lot of food to eat in those ponds. So here at the Nature Center, a good place to look for raccoon tracks is going to be near that pond. Okay? So remember, they have a different front foot than their back foot, and they're going to have how many toes? 5. All right, next up we're going to talk about squirrels. And the squirrels we have around Dillon Nature Center are called fox squirrels. They're kind of reddish like foxes. And so you can see a picture of one here. Take a look at their feet down here at the bottom. There's a front foot, and then there is a back foot. Can you see the size difference? Okay, so they've got a littler front foot and then a bigger back foot that's really, really long. So if you look at their toes, okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 toes on the front foot. How many toes are on the back foot? 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes on the back foot. So 4 on the front, 5 on the back. Isn't that weird? Okay, so they have a different number of toes. So watch for that when you're looking for those prints. Sometimes you're going to see some little toenail marks. You're going to see some claw marks. Sometimes you won't. Where are you going to find these squirrel tracks? You're going to find them in town. You're going to find them near trees. So places where they're going to be up and down and around. They're going to walk in different ways. You're going to see them kind of hopping sometimes. They're going to hop often like a rabbit, where they have, look at this here, they're going to have great big back feet. When they land, they're going to land in front of their front feet. So they're called hoppers. So when they hop, they're going to spring out, and then their front feet are going to land, and then their back feet are going to land in front of their front feet, and then they're going to do it again. So when you see their tracks, their back feet are actually in front of their front feet. So that's when they're running around. Now, squirrels often go up and down the trees, so they're going to move in other ways as well. So you won't always see it in this hopping pattern. Okay? So the next hopper we're going to talk about is going to be rabbits. All right, so down here on the ground, I've got some rabbit tracks, and I want you to take a look at these with me. Here's a set of back feet right here. It's kind of a oval shape. And here are the front feet, okay? Smaller, quite a bit smaller, and quite a bit more rounded. So a rabbit is going to be a hopper like that squirrel. So they're going to jump, they're going to land with their back feet in front of their front feet. So here's a set right there. One thing you want to notice about rabbit tracks is that you don't always see their toe marks, because they have all that kind of that fluff and hair around their toes, so they don't always get a really good print. So they're going to be similar to those squirrels, but not quite. Okay? You're going to find rabbit tracks in all different kinds of places, backyards. We see them at the nature center, along the trails, kind of in more quiet areas. You're not going to see them just in the playscape or in the front. They're going to be more towards the other side of the pond, where it's a little bit quiet. It's a good place to find them. All right. All right, detectives, when you're out looking for animal tracks, you're going to need to bring some things with you. So I suggest you bring some sort of a closed container. This is a Kool-Aid container that has a screwed-on lid, and I have some plaster of Paris in here. So when you're going to make a cast of an animal track, you need that plaster of Paris. So get a bag of that or a box of that at Walmart or any other craft store, and then put it in some sort of container. Like I said, I like these kinds of Kool-Aid containers. Screw it back on. Take that with you. Then you're going to need some water. Okay? It's good to have some water. I've got some water in a water bottle, just simple as that. You might want to take a ruler with you. That way you can measure those tracks that you see how big they are. Then that might help you decide what kind of animal tracks you have. Then what you're going to want to probably bring might be, how about a hand lens or a magnifying glass? That way you can look really up close and see what you've got. The other thing you might want to bring with you is some newspaper. And that way, after your cast is set up, you can wrap that up gently in the newspaper and then take it home with you. So consider taking those things with you. It'll probably be important. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look around here at the Nature Center for some different tracks. And in fact, I spotted some right down over here on the ground earlier today. Let's see if we can figure out what those tracks are. So come with me right down over here. We're going to look down on the ground. Okay, get real close. Okay, so we're going to look at the number of toes first. I see a print right here. And there's one toe here and one toe here. What is the shape? Kind of looks like a crescent with a smaller end here, bigger rounded end here, one toe, two toe, and then it kind of looks like a heart going around like that. What is it? That's a deer track. Good job. Yay, you figured it out. It's a deer track because they're going to have that hoof with two toes. Earlier today, I went ahead and mixed together some plaster of Paris with some water. So when you're mixing that up, you want to mix 2 parts plaster of Paris to 1 part water, give or take, and I let it sit up. And you're going to want to let it sit up for about an hour. And so here I have it sitting in the ground. One other thing that might be helpful for you to bring with you might be one of those little shovels. If you don't have one of those with you, maybe grab a stick. We have lots of sticks here at the Nature Center. So this is already dried. I've got a print underneath here. I'm just going to kind of loosen this up, get underneath here, and then I'm going to pick it up gently. Okay, and loosen it up, and then see what I've got. See, I already broke it. It might be kind of hard to see here, but I have one toe there and one toe there. And up here you can kind of see that heart shape. Okay, so that's a what? It's a deer track. Okay, really simple to do. Now we're going to look around and see if we can find some other tracks. You ready to come along? All right, I found some more tracks coming along this mud right alongside of the trail here. And I'm going to take my ruler and see how big this is. Looks like I've got about 3 inches. There's 1 foot. Here's another foot, and it's going to be about 3 inches. So it's going to be a little bit bigger than that tennis ball. There's some more tracks right over here. How about toes? Do you think we can count the toes? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, and then there's the back pad. 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, and there's the back pad. It's kind of got some little scallops or loops in it. Also, I noticed these marks here. 1, 2, 3, 4 marks. Over here, 1, 2, 3, 4 marks. What are those? Those are nails. Okay. So what kind of animal that we talked about earlier has 4 toes and has those sharp nails? Also, it's going to have kind of an oval shape to it. What do you think it is? Could it be a coyote? Could it be a dog? Okay. Those are really hard to tell. But here at the Nature Center, we have lots of people that walk their dogs. So I'm going to say this is probably going to be a dog with a very big foot just because it is 3 inches in length. So we've got a dog track here. What do you say we go ahead and make a cast of one of these prints here? So I'm going to take my plaster of Paris. And I'm going to pour it in this top cap here. Oh, we got a lot. Okay, then I'm going to take my water and I'm going to pour it in. One other thing that I forgot to mention earlier is you're going to need a stirring utensil, like a spoon or maybe a popsicle stick. Okay, and I've got this pre-measured out, and so I'm going to pour this in slowly. Slowly. It's going to fill this whole thing up, and then we're going to stir. And you want to stir slowly. And you're going to have to stir it for about a minute. And then we're going to pour it in. Okay, now it kind of looks like this. Kind of looks like, whoop, slapping it. Kind of looks like thin a pancake batter. Okay, got a few more chunks in it, and then we're just going to pour it right into the track. Now I'm slopping it on the ground. Boop. Pour it in. Make sure it goes all over the track, and then if you see any bubbles in there, try to get the bubbles out. Okay, all over there good. And then you wait. All right, we've walked down the trail just a little bit and we didn't go far before we found some other tracks down here on the ground, kind of near that pond. And it's in some soft dirt down here. And I'm looking at the tracks and I'm seeing some toes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes, kind of rounded, and it reminds me of my hand. Then I'm seeing a different track right over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think this is a 5th one over here. 5 toes, and it looks a lot like a foot. Okay, so I'm looking at this print, and then this print over here. They're different. So, I bet that's a front foot, and I bet that is a back foot there. And I'm seeing another print over here. Looks like a front, and I think this is kind of a back. It's not a very good one over here. Okay, so this animal, when it was walking, was more kind of walking this way, so more of a waddler, back and forth, so right side, left side, side by side. Can you remember what kind of animal has those 5 toes that's a waddler, walks side by side? How about a raccoon? Did you guess it? I bet you did. Okay, so these are going to be some raccoon tracks. We see lots of raccoon tracks here at the Nature Center. And like I said before, lots of them are going to be around the pond or by the water because that's where they're going to find things that they eat. So today I hope you had fun learning about how to be an animal, or rather a track detective. And there are lots of resources on the internet that you can find that will help you decide what kind of animal tracks that you might have out there. We also have some books that you can get as well. This Animal Tracks books from Peterson, we have this in our gift shop at the Nature Center. This is one that we've had in our library, so that's a guide to animal tracking and behavior. So get out there, go find some animal tracks, go explore, have some fun. We'll see you next time.